We are starting our little baby Yoda cake. So I have some tan buttercream and I'm gonna do a layer all over this little mini cake. Right? Some just nice smooth layer just to get a base coat of the brown for his little robe on. And then we'll add some details to it later. We'll give it a little collar, some arms, make it nice and cute. And we're gonna use a cake pop for his head. So for right now, all I'm worried about doing is nice, smooth, even coverage on the sides. We're gonna try and make this a really simple version. So if you wanted to do something similar at home, be nice and easy. There we go. Nice first stage on our little baby Yoda cake. Getting a nice little layer of brown on our mini cake. I'll probably go over it again just to fill in any thin spots, but for now we're good and we can put it in the fridge. So I'm giving my little baby Yoda a second layer of brown because I've got a few little spots where I've got some show throughs. So I'm just gonna go over with my nice little tan color and make his little robe. I'm actually gonna take this opportunity to angle my spatula a little bit and make him just a little fatter at the base. So I'm looking for a slight angle, up at the top, right? So it's just gonna go in a little bit. And I'll give him kind of that little robe shape without having to add too much detail. So I'm just gonna make it a little fatter at the bottom than at the top. And that's coming along nicely. So I'm just gonna clean up the bottom really quickly and then remove the excess from the top. So he's looking good. Maybe just needs one more pass to finish smoothing it out. So we're working on our little baby Yoda cake, and I have some little Yoda green white modeling chocolate that I've colored, right? So I used just a little bit of royal blue, some lemon yellow, and just a touch of buckeye brown, just to dull the color a little bit and make it a more appropriate shade. So less mint, more Yoda. I'm just gonna roll it out gently with my rolling pin. And if it's a little sticky, I'm just gonna give it a little tap with my powdered sugar puff, right? And this is gonna go over basically an oversized cake pop head. So I took about 2 normal standard cake pops worth of cake mesh and molded them into an oval that's gonna sit nicely on the top of my cake. And I have more than enough surface area now, right, to work around that. And I let that cake pop sit in the fridge for quite a while just to make sure it was nice and firm, right? So I'm just gonna push that modeling chocolate down over it. And when it's nice and covered, I'm just gonna trim the edges and fold the excess underneath so that his little head is completely covered. And then he'll be ready to put on details like eyes, ears, mouth, nose. And I'm gonna keep mine relatively simple and kind of cartoonish and not too realistic, because I kind of feel like a tiny realistic Yoda cake would be a little bit much. Right, so I'm just gonna gently fold that over with my hands and kind of tuck it under the bottom. And it doesn't really matter if it's completely covered because it's gonna attach to the cake there and that'll keep it fresh. Okay. So beautiful. I just wanna make sure that it's nice and even. So if you need to, dust with a little powdered sugar and just go over it with your hands until you have a nice shape. Because we want it to be nice and smooth, right? We don't want weird, lumpy little Yoda heads. So that's a nice little head. It's gonna go back in the fridge and sit with its little body buddy until we're ready to put them together, and I'm gonna work on shaping the ears. All right, so I'm gonna work on Yoda's ears. I have a little soft pink colored white modeling chocolate. I'm gonna roll it out with my tiny rolling pin with the smallest guides on, so it's a nice thin piece, right? And I've got some good generic leaf cutters, and I'm gonna use the smallest one, right, to cut 2 pieces, and this will be the pink insides of his ears, so one for each direction. And then I'm gonna put the larger guides back on my rolling pin and roll out the green because I want it to be just a little thicker. So I have my green. I'm gonna go ahead and roll that. And I'm going to use the next size up in the set of those leaf cutters and cut out 2 of those as well. Right, so 1 for each side, and I'm going to save the rest to do cute little details like his nose and blending and little hands, right? So because these are larger, more fragile pieces, I'm also going to use a little bit of floral wire, and I have kind of a heavy gauge, but modeling chocolate is not that heavy, so you could probably get away with something a little lighter. And I'm just going to curve it a tiny bit so it matches the top of that curve, right? And that's just going to support the ear a little bit and go down into the cake pop and the cake, just so that his ears stay in place. And I'm going to do 1 of those for each side. And once you have 1, you can kind of use that to make your second one, right? And it should line up pretty nicely. Beautiful. So, modeling chocolate stays pretty sticky. So I'm just going to take the pink and put it down near the bottom, right? So that there's a nice area of green up top. And I'm going to use my rolling pin to just lightly press it in. And if the modeling chocolate isn't sticky enough, then you can always add just a little gum glue or something else like that, just to get it to stick together. Sometimes it wants to stick to me more than it wants to stick to itself, right? And we're just trying to kind of flatten out that pink inside area of his ears. Beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead with just a little bit of gum glue. I'm going to place one of my prepared wires, just press it down lightly, make sure it's in a nice spot, and just roll the top edge over. Right? Because he has kind of that little cartilage rim on the top of his ears. And you can give him a little more shape. Oh, that's not sticking in place, so I'm just going to add just a little bit just to get it tacky so it'll stay. And we have our first little Yoda ear. And then I'll go back and I'll do the second one. So repeat the process for the other side. Great thing about modeling chocolate is that you can warm it with the heat of your hands, smooth it, and reshape it and blend it together. So we'll be able to blend the ears at the base into his little head and make him look nice and cute. So now those are prepped. We're gonna let them sit up for a little bit. They'll get a little firm and they'll be easier to handle when we go to put them together. I've got just a little bit of my green and I've rolled it into kind of a pill shape that I'm cutting in half, right? And I'm just gonna use my finger just to gently flatten it. And I'm gonna use these little shapes to make my little Yoda hands because he has adorable little hands. So just taking an X-Acto knife and running it along there just to make little fingers. Not actually sure how many fingers a Yoda has, so I'm just gonna make cute little hands and they'll be ready to go when I put my little guy together. So I'm gonna set him aside with my ears and I'm gonna go ahead and work on my body. So I'm just gonna put another light layer of frosting on my little Yoda robe because I like the nice little shape I've got going. And I just want to fill in some of the little dimples and pockmarks and little air bubbles and smooth out some of the little lines and ridges so that we have a nice kind of clean finish, because we're not going hyper realistic with this. We're going a little more animated, so I want it to have a nice clean look. That's looking beautiful. Pick an area for the front. And I'm going to give him just a little definition. By carving out a little bit. And then building up that buttercream. So it looks like there's a nice overlap in the fabric for the opening of his robe. I'm going to build up one side and just carve away lightly on the other so we get the look like one piece of fabric is going in under the other. Nice. And then his hands are usually down at his sides, so I'm gonna put a little buildup of frosting for his arms. I'm going to use that to go ahead and place his little hands. And then I'm going to use this petal tip just to pipe the sleeves. So that buildup of frosting gives us the illusion of the arm being underneath there. And once we put the little cowl on his robe, it'll cover up the top of the arms. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. Just going to use my paintbrush just to... Okay. Just to clean up that area. It's looking nice. So we're going to let this set up in the refrigerator so those are nice and stable. The buttercream has time to set up. And then I'm going to go over this front area again and smooth it out a little bit before we proceed. All right, so we're going to put his little head on now. So I'm just going to use a little bit of buttercream and attach that lovely little cake pop we made the other day in there. I'm going to get it nice and centered, make sure I like where it is, relation to the front and the back, right? Because we don't want him to look like he's going to fall over. Make sure it's nice and level on top. And I'm going to use this opportunity to go ahead and smooth out that little front area, right? Since it's been in the fridge for just a few minutes. And I'm not going to worry about the connection between the head and the robe because we're going to pipe a big cowl, right, all along there. So I have a slightly lighter shade of brown prepped and in the bag for that. But we're just going to wait for his head to be nice and firmly attached because I don't want to disturb it. And then we'll go ahead and put on some details. So we're going to give him a cute little nose, mouth, and some eyes, and some adorable little Yoda ears to finish him off. So that is looking cute. We're going to give it a few minutes to set up in the refrigerator. All right. So we're going to start over on this side, piping all the way around, and we're going to do his little cowl. And depending on how high up it is, we might need to go over it more than once, but it's looking okay. So we've got one line in there. I'm going to start right here and go around and do a second layer just on the back to build it up a little more. And then we'll smooth the two lines together. I'm going to start just gently working that together for now. We're going to put our little guy in the fridge. And set for a few minutes and then blend that. All right, so we are just smoothing out the buttercream on the back and just blending together the lines that we piped to make the little collar on its robe. So I'm just working a little buttercream at a time over that area to just get rid of any little seams that are left. Smooth out any rough edges. All right. So we've got the little ears that we made. I am going to just gently slide those into place. I want to make sure that they're at the same height. Color supporting them. So then we're going to just take a little bit of extra green, warm it up in our fingers, and use that, just a little coil of that, to gently blend the ears and the head together so it looks like one connected piece. That's the beauty of modeling chocolate. When you warm it up in your skin, you can kind of, it's body temperature, you can manipulate it and blend it together in ways that you can't with fondant and gum paste. We have his ears and his eyes are gonna line up. So we made a slight edit. We started with the dragées, the little black dragées as eyes, and they were cute, but they weren't quite enough. And we don't want to put on too much detail because he's already looking adorable. So we've gone with the oversized anime eyes with the little shine dots, just to give him that little love me, I'm so adorable look. Because he is, and you just want to pick him up and take care of him. And I think everybody is waiting for some more sweet, sweet Baby Yoda footage. I'm just gonna give him a little mouth. And we'll be done.